Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we are actually going to go press some buttons in our calculator. But before we go do that, let's put our thinking caps on and do some anticipating. What do I expect the calculator to give me in return for some of these values that I see? So here we're talking about the arc sine, right? We're talking positive. You need to rewrite that, right? We're basically talking sine of theta is 0.12345. Now we know that sine is positive in quad 1 and quad 2, right? But since we're invoking the arc sine, we're limited, right, from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So we're not going to get that value. We're going to get the quad 1 value there. So I'm expecting a quad 1 value, right, for that particular thing. Okay, same thing for the next one, the inverse cosine of this value. Well, again, we're talking about the cosine of theta is negative 0.81818. Well, where's cosine negative? Well, from the past, we know cosine's negative in quadrant number 2 and quadrant number 3. Right? Those are the two quadrants that cosine is traditionally negative in because the x is negative there. But because of the inverse cosine, we're restricted between 0 and pi over 2, or 0 and 90 degrees. So I'm expecting the quad 2 answer, right, with respect to that one. Alrighty. And again, I'd expect my terminal side of my angle to be in quad 2. If we were drawing pictures, right, I would expect my theta to look like this. Over here, right, I'd expect my theta to look like so, right, in terms of a terminal side of an angle. Next one, we have the tangent, the arc tangent of negative 2.9. Well, rewriting that, this is the tangent of theta equals negative 2.9. We know tangent is negative in quad number 2 and quad number 4. All right, but since we're invoking the arc tangent, we have the same restriction as sine, so I'm expecting a negative rotation in quad 4. So my picture, right, I would be rotating negatively, and my terminal side would be in here, right? So there would be my theta. As a matter of fact, it would be negative theta, right, going into that quadrant. So I'm expecting a negative value in quad 4. All right, and so forth and so forth and so on. The next one, again, we're talking cosecant of theta equals negative 1.545. Well, again, this now means that the sine of theta is negative 1 over 1.545. So where's sine negative? Well, it's negative in quadrant number 3 and quadrant number 4. But because of my restriction, right, we're expecting a negative rotation in quad 4. So if I drew my angle, again, I'm expecting something like I did over here in tangent. I'm expecting my terminal side to be rotated negatively in quadrant number 4 when I go invoke my calculator here in a moment. And the same thing here, we're talking the secant of theta is 1.348. Well, this is the same thing as saying the cosine of theta is 1 over 1.348. And so where's cosine positive? Well, it's positive in quadrant number 1 and in quadrant number 4. All right, but since we're using the inverse function, right, we're restricted to quad 1 and quad 2. So that's what we're expecting there, and we're expecting a nice positive rotation in here. So that my theta would be in quad 1 rotated positively. And then last but not least, the inverse tangent here. I think I meant to do cotangent. Let me go ahead and put it as cotangent. So we're talking about cotangent of theta is 0.8345. Cotangent is positive in quadrant number 1 and in quadrant number 3. But because we're restricted to that part of the domain, we're expecting a quadrant 1. So that's basically what's going to happen. And again, this is saying tangent of theta is 0.8345 over 1. All right, so those are my anticipations. That's what I'm expecting to happen. Here's my pictures that I would draw for each one. Oops, that's a positive rotation here. For each one of these, if I had to draw the angle that we're going to get back when we use our calculator. So using our calculator, right, what do we get? Well, for the first one, we're talking about the, we're talking about the arc sine or the inverse sine of 0.1 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And what I get is, this is in degree mode, so I'm getting 7.09. All right? To 3 to 4 decimals, right? It looks like what we're getting is theta is roughly 7.0913 degrees. Right? And so that's what I was anticipating. I was expecting a quad 1 angle in that particular area. For the next one, let me clear that out. We're talking about the inverse cosine of a negative 0.81818. And what I'm getting, right, my theta is roughly 144 degrees, 90/30. And so that's exactly what I was anticipating, right? Oops, let me bring it up. Well, I was anticipating a angle in quad number 2, its terminal side lying over there, and that's exactly what I got. In the next one, we've got, I don't know why I'm getting that glare, sorry. All right, so we're invoking the arc tangent. So my arc tangent, and we're talking about negative 2.9. And what I'm getting is a negative, right? So my theta is a negative 70 point, looks like 9744 degrees. All right, and again, that's what I was anticipating. I'm getting a negative rotation in quadrant number 4, and that's exactly what the calculator gave me. To finish this one off, again, if you don't have the arc cosine on your calculator, I would just basically use the arc sine of negative 1 over 1.545. All right, and I'm going to have to do that on my Desmos, because if you go to my functions, I don't have the arc cosecant or the arc secant or the arc tangent. At least I don't see them. And so in this case, I'll do the arc, oops, clear that out. I'll do the arc sine of, what did I have there? A negative 1 over 1.545. And what I got is a negative 40. So in this case, theta is negative 40.3345. And again, that's what I was anticipating, right? I was anticipating a negative rotation in quadrant number 4, and that's exactly what the calculator gave me. Here, to finish this one off, I would do the inverse cosine of 1 over 1.348, and this one, theta would be, that's theta. Theta would be the inverse tangent of 1 over 0.8345. All right, so that's how I would finish those guys off. So seeing our values here, last bit of number crunching, we get the inverse cosine of 1, and we're dividing that by 1.348. So I'm getting 42.1116. So this is roughly 42.1116 degrees, and that's what we were anticipating, right? We were anticipating a nice angle in quadrant number 1 as our value, and that's exactly what the calculator gave me. And then last but not least, this tangent, my inverse tangent of, we've got, what, 1 over, so let me come back and put a fraction in there. We got 1 over 0.8345. All right, and I got a value of 50.1550 degrees. And again, we are anticipating that. We are anticipating a nice quad 1 angle for that. So there's your number crunching, all right, as well as our anticipation. And hopefully, again, you're understanding why the calculator isn't giving some of the values that it has, especially for these two, right? We know that the arc tangent is negative in quad 2 and 4 respectively. And if we thought in terms of our what we normally do, which is from 0 to 360, right, 1 full rotation, I'd expect, you know, a value, this would be the reference angle, right? So I'd expect a value over here, and then I would expect the value over there, which is about 290 something, right? And we're not getting the 290, we're getting the negative 70.9744 because that is what the arctangent basically gives us in return. All right, so there's the number crunching. We'll do some more things with our inverse tangent functions in a moment, and I'll see you guys in that next video.